You're all very welcome, and thanks so much for joining us today at our lunchtime event. I hope you all have a cup of coffee or some lunch in front of you. I thank you so much especially to our panel for taking the time to be here today. And my name is Susan Dwyer. I'm the founder of Rise Up, and I'm delighted to be doing this partnership event with Iconic Offices on money mindset, which is a topic we are super passionate about, and we're so excited to hear from the experts today. So in terms of what we'll be covering, Saoirse kind of touched on it, but we're going to start off pretty simple around what money mindset actually is, any self-limiting beliefs that we may have around money, and most importantly, how can we go about overcoming these blocks and changing our mindset around money. So today I'm joined by an amazing panel of women who are all doing fantastic work in this space and helping their clients with money. So to introduce everyone, first up we have Aoife Gaffney from Prudence Money Penny Coaching. So Aoife works with women to overcome their money blocks, those unconscious obstacles that prevent us all from earning our true potential. She creates safe and secure private spaces to talk about all things money with her clients. She's also an amazing writer with a number of books on this topic, which we'll share links to after today's event. So next up, we have Santis O'Gara, aka some of you might know her as the Caribbean Dub. Santis is a budget mindset coach. She's also a writer and an entrepreneur. So in 2019, as a single parent on low income, she cleared over €15,000 in debt. She aims to inspire people to live their best, authentic life. To do this, we need to live life as it is, a once-off. And money is often seen as limiting. Santa sees it as a practical tool. And last but not least, we have Olive Ryan from MoneyCube. So Olive is head of client services at online pensions and investments advisor moneycube.ie. Her focus is on making financial services comprehensible, inclusive, and meaningful for people who want to take charge in their financial future. She's worked in banking, for accountancy firms, and most recently, before joining MoneyCube, she was customer experience manager at Friends First, which is now Aviva Ireland. So thank you, ladies, so much for joining us today. So to kick things off and to get into things straight away, I'd like to just kind of, for anyone who, may not be that aware of their money mindset or even what it's all about. Santis, do you want to talk to us around, what is money mindset, or what are we talking about when we refer to this?
Money mindset is basically the way we view money, our relationship with money, how we approach it, and how we let it control our behavior. For me, with regards to money mindset, I've always had a view on money that, I was never going to ever earn. I'd never be rich. And it was a bad thing almost to have money and to have too much money. One of the earliest sayings that I can remember, if you're thinking about our views around money and money mindset, is, it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven. And that was my money mindset. Almost having money was a bad thing. So money mindset is really our mindset around money, and how to get better and think of it in a more abundant way.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. And my next question, Aoife, I might go to you for this. How is our money mindset formed, and where does it come from originally?
Like any mindset, we are born perfect. So babies are born absolutely perfect. And then our society and our educators, so that's maybe our teachers, our friends, our family, we install these beliefs into children. So, depending on where you're brought up, how you're brought up, who brought you up. But these are the messages that we hear consciously and subconsciously as we're growing up. So the message that I got when I was growing up was that there was never enough. That was the message that was repeated physically, so it was repeated verbally, and it was even demonstrated. So there was never enough. My mom was always rushing around, so I thought there's never enough time. There was never, she would eat standing up in the kitchen because there was never enough time for her. She was always kind of, you should even say it herself, I'm very good at stretching things. So I learned then that okay, there was never enough food, there was never enough money, but there always was. But that was the belief that she held, which was how she was brought up, that then was installed into my mindset. And I was probably even in my late 30s before I figured out that that was my pattern of behavior.
That's a really interesting point. And because I'm going to be completely honest, like before I started organizing this event, I wasn't aware of my money mindset until I started to like ask myself these questions. So for anyone out there who may not be aware of their beliefs around money, Olive, do you have any insight into, how would someone go about identifying, okay, well, what are my beliefs actually around money?
Hi, Susan. Yeah, that's a good question. And I think harking back to what Santos and Eva have said, it is taking a step back and just seeing how do you behave every day? What are your patterns of behavior when it comes to your finances or when it comes to how you live? Are you always scraping, the last few pennies every month to make sure that you can pay the bills? Or are you someone who is always prepared and organized and everything, so it is just identifying what are your patterns, and then you can see, okay, now maybe I can look about ways of changing that. But it is taking a step back, just have a look and see what way do you behave every week, every month, and that will tell you what kind of approach or mindset you have to money.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think one of you mentioned it before, but as well, I think thinking back to the phrases that were said as a kid around money as well. Like I know in my house, it was, if you want to be successful, you've got to work really, really hard. Yeah. So like now my work life, I think that's affected me in terms of often my work ethic is a bit overdrive, which I think is really interesting. And like Aoife said, it kind of all links back. Santos, can you give us some insight on the whole scarcity versus abundance mindset, and what are the kind of key differences there?
Well, I'll go back to when I was in a phase of scarcity, I literally, even though with the same money that I have right now, I'm on the point of building. So I'm earning the same money that I earned when I was at my highest point in debt. But my attitude towards it is totally different. I'm freelance now, so I'm not working. I don't have an income coming in guaranteed every single week. But my attitude towards money now is totally flipped. I don't worry about money. I know it's coming to me. I know that I've had my mindset to a point where I know that I've reprogrammed my brain how to adapt towards the money that I know that's coming to me. But when I was in a scarcity mindset, I literally would have the same money. I didn't know what was going on with it. I was worried all the time. I wasn't functioning. In my day-to-day life, everything everybody said reverted to me thinking, well, I don't have enough for this. I can't do this. How am I going to pay that? I'm never going to have enough. This is the way life is going to be. And that is a scarcity mindset. And another point of it as well is I was looking at others. So, I'd see somebody and they're wearing this, or they're driving this, or their family seems really together. And that's scarcity, because I feel like, they have that, so I couldn't have that. There's only so many people that can be doing so well. And I'm just unfortunately not one of them. And that's literally the way I thought. And also, when I did get money, it's the way I dealt with it. I used it as an armor, you know. Well, if someone sees me, if I have this money now, I'll spend it now, and I look great now, and people will view me as that sort of a way. And that was the whole scarcity, because I have it now, I have to use it now, I have to spend it now, and it's not the way to be. Now I look from a view of abundance. I know money is coming to me. I show people how to budget all the time, but what they don't see is I have a budget for myself, which is might not seem realistic, but this is an abundance. Next year, next month, I'm earning 10 grand a month, let's say, and I write my budget out for that, and I know how much I'm going to spend for that. And that's an abundant mindset. And what that does is it's retraining my brain to work like that person. They say you have a genius part of your brain. I think it's the left frontal cortex. And basically, what that does, if you're thinking a kind of way, it's coming up with the ideas. You ever get, sometimes you come up with a genius idea and you go, I'm going to release a planner, because now you're starting to think in a certain way of abundance. Your mind starts training towards it. And that's basically abundant mindset. There will always be more. There's enough for everybody. Look, there's 3 women here. We talk about money, and there's how many others? There's always more. And there's always someone. No one's going to do it like you do. No one's going to earn the money like you do. So that's where I think with the abundant mindset, I think that it's always coming, and you have to treat your life like it's already there, and your mind and everything will work towards it. Sorry, I kind of took over.
I'm so sorry. I absolutely love everything that you just said. Aoife, do you think, like, say if someone is in a scarcity like Santis was, how do you go from being in a scarcity mindset to flipping a switch and being in that abundant state? Do you have any tips around that?
A lot of it is to do with the language that you use with yourself. So and everybody has their favorite words and words that really trigger them. And for me, budget is a word that really, really, really triggers me. So instead of budget, I use spending plan. So my plan, and it is a plan, and I'll call it my abundant spending plan. So I'm very mindful of the language I use with myself. So I renamed all of my bank accounts. So instead of bank account number 1, the day-to-day, it's, my 6-figure business bank account. This is my abundant bank account. So wherever possible, the language I use with myself, and even the words that I'm looking at. So this is this little doodle here. So I like drawing and doodling. So I set myself an income goal every month, and every time I earn, each of those sections on that little picture represents an amount of money. So every time I earn that amount of money, I'll color in a section. So I'm very mindful of the language I use with myself. I ask myself good questions. If I see something, it's not, I can't afford that. It's like, oh, I wonder, how can I earn the money to put that on my list? Or that's something I will aim for, or I'll put that on my be-do have list. So mindful of the language I use myself. Where possible, you can't get in the door of my house before you fall over a post-it with a figure on it or an abundant mantra or something. Even the chair that I'm sitting on, I'll have mantras underneath the chair, so I know that they're somehow like kind of working their way up the leg of the chair into my subconscious mind. So it's images, symbols, thoughts, and it's every day I check in with myself, saying, what language am I using with myself?
I love that. That's so interesting. It's a bit like when you create a vision board, having those goals in front of you and visible is really important. And Olive, can I ask you, with regards to the types of clients that you work with, are there any kind of common challenges that you see with the people that you work with? Perhaps things that are holding them back in terms of achieving, their earning potential?
Yeah, I think in terms of how they deal with money, I think people and their mindset, a lot of times people, they look at money as something that they have to earn, and they live to make money, as opposed to I work, I earn money. It's my asset. It's something I own. I control it, and it's that change in view of that is something that I can control, and it can make my life better if I wanted to. Money can do two things. It can make your life difficult, or it can make it really good. And it is that approach that the girls have spoken about, changing the way you look at it. So I think that's what I see a lot, is that people are looking at it as something that they have to keep working to make the money to get on with life. But really, they need to think of money as something they own. They can control it. They can use it to make the life that they want to make. So that would be, I suppose, yeah, that's kind of how some people come to us with that mindset, and then hopefully we can help them with a bit of planning to change that and get back and control things again.
So it's all around the control piece and having you being in control.
Completely, yeah, absolutely.
And Santis, what about your clients? Is it similar, or typically?
I get my clients, when they come to me, they're literally from a scarcity, like 100% mindset. I get a lot of people to say, I'm from a working class family, my whole generational, this is how it is. And it's like what Aoife was saying, we're all born pure and whole. And as we go through life, we meet our parents, we adapt to them. We go to school, we adapt again, we meet our friends, we adapt again. So we spend our whole life adapting to our environment. And what I try to, to guide them towards is, maybe you have to change the way you're thinking about you could create your whole environment. You don't just have to be in that one environment that you think that this is how. There's a whole world out there. And there's mentors in everything that you do and everywhere that you look. There's mentors that I have that don't know they are my mentors. You follow them and you get inspiration, or you read their books and you get inspiration, you get inspired, and you see the world a different way. And that's really what I do. I do use a budget as a plan, because I think money is a tool. And it's trying to really open people's eyes to see that it's how we view money that gives it the power. And with regards to that, that's basically what I do. I use budgeting as a tool of little steps that they can do that will really change. If you can budget, or you can do a survey and you make €1 a day, and it adds up every day. Next week you're doing €2 a day, €3 a day, and it's something small like that. And I say a survey because, like I say, I always start with something really small, really manageable. If you can do that, then what else is out there for you to do? And it's just planting seeds,
Yeah. And so if you have like a big financial goal in your head,
yeah,
I want to make 10K next month, your first piece of advice would be set up that budget and figure out how you're going to do it. Is it?
Yeah, it's what can I do?
What can I do to get there? Okay.
What can I do to get there? Because there is something that you can always do.
Yeah. Thanks for that. That's really interesting. And Aoife, in terms of the people that you work with, is there any kind of like bad habits that you see people conforming to again and again, and how do you break those bad habits?
I think one of the biggest bad habits, everybody has bad habits. Everybody has habits, whether they're good or bad. That is sometimes somebody else's opinion. But I think complacency is probably one of the biggest things that People get complacent with everything, and they're not aware of where their money is going. So I say, when you start track what's coming in first, because that puts you into an abundant mindset, rather than looking at all your outgoings and say, okay, that's it now, beans on toast for the next, until the end of the month. That puts you into a scarcity mindset. So when I'm working with clients and they do have this element of complacency, I say, celebrate the wins, celebrate the good stuff. Have your drawings, celebrate all of the stuff that comes in first for about a week or so. It doesn't matter if it's money or you find it on the ground, or it doesn't matter how it comes into your life. Record it and celebrate that. And then once your mind is in this place of awareness, and you're suddenly, like Santos said, if I can do that, then what else can I do? So when you shift yourself into that place of, I want to celebrate all my wins, celebrate all my successes, and then you shift your awareness to what's going out. And again, it's just being aware initially. And then once you're aware, it's then you can make adjustments. So when I say tweak the leaks rather than the slash and burn approach, I think one of the biggest leaks are unnecessary charges, like bank charges. I haven't paid them in 35 years and I'm not going to start today. And so there are really, really simple ways of making these tiny adjustments. And the first step is being aware. Just open up your eyes. There are incredible and amazing opportunities out there.
Thank you for that. And interestingly enough, we did a survey a couple of weeks ago at Rise Up, and we were talking about anxiety in relation to money. And, an incredibly high percentage of women, this particular audience was women, voted that when it comes to talking about money, people get filled with anxiety. And we do a lot of talking around, for example, asking for a salary increase at work. So I guess that definitely comes back to mindset. Olive, do you have any advice for people who have anxiety when it comes to talking about money and vocalizing words, or speaking to managers when it comes to salary increases, etc., etc.? What would you say to those people?
That's an interesting one, Susan, because I know I can't quote what the surveys or where the information came from, but I do recall in the last couple of years hearing how women in particular compared to men are not good about valuing themselves. So when it comes to salaries and payments, even if you're self-employed and you're charging for your service, or you're employed and you're asking for a salary increase, generally men will go ahead and believe in themselves and just ask the question, and they might get a no, but they'll still ask the question. Whereas I think women will think a lot more about it and think, is this enough? Am I right? And am I asking too much? Am I worth it? So I would say we need to have, particularly for females, I think we need to have a bit more confidence in ourselves. We can ask for what's right for us, value yourself properly, and don't be afraid to ask for that. Another point you were talking there about anxiety about money, and I think it comes back a little bit to what Aoife was saying about the planning and the knowing, the awareness. I think that can create a lot of anxiety when people they just maybe ignore things, that complacency, and they kick things down the road and not think about what they have coming in, what they have going out. But if you actually sit down and look at it in the way that Aoife described, you actually give yourself a lot of confidence, and it takes you just that awareness can really dispel a lot of anxiety about money, because then you can see, well, where can I work better? Like, where can I get more money in? Where can I have less going out? And you can start taking that control over things. So that itself will reduce your anxiety. But it is about confidence in yourself. You are worth it. Don't ever assume you're not. If you're good at what you do, you should be paid for it. And planning and just knowing what you have, and having that awareness. It does take a bit of effort. You can't be that you can't just hope for the best and everything will work out fine. You do have to put a bit of effort in yourself, to make your money work for you. But it's worth it in the end when you can, because that, like I said, that anxiety will reduce if you are in control. That's a huge part of it.
Brilliant. That was really interesting. And that was a good point around the confidence piece, because that's again something that comes up quite a lot within our groups. Santis, you obviously were in debt and this was building. How did you get the confidence, or where did that shift come from in terms of getting out of debt? Because I'm sure a lot of us have been in situations when the credit card bill is sitting there, it's mounting up, the interest is going up, and I've been that person where I just not looking at it, basically, so not being aware. Like, what would you say to those people who might be in that situation?
Well, for me to get the confidence, I'm a solution orientated person. But obviously when you're in debt and you're trying to reshuffle everything, you don't have a plan, and you're seeing the money just going out before it even comes in, it could get into this spiral where you feel like you can't talk to anybody because you feel ashamed to even get the confidence to have a conversation around money, because no one talks about the downsides of it. No one talks about being in debt. No one talks about can't sleep at night. That car is lovely outside, but I can't afford to pay for it. If anything goes wrong at all, we're screwed. No one talks about that. But for me, on a personal level, I did not know a lot about money to even talk about. I didn't know there was places like MABs to go to. I thought they only did things with mortgages. I actually spoke to them about that. I was like, I didn't know that you did all that. But I just felt I was at that point where the anxiety was so bad that it was a win or lose. I had nothing left. It was either go for it and try to attack it and look for ways of educating myself around my loans and around my budgeting and around my finances, and seeing what way. And like Aoife said, I was in this this whole space where I was paying 15, 10, euro for missed fees, from not paying back my bank loans and stuff. And that, when I was adding it up and I was looking over my bank statement for 3 months, that could be 80 euro, by just missing fees, that I wasn't even giving myself that 80 euro that was mine. So I just got the confidence by watching and tracking, like Aoife said, the little bits that are going out, and just making small changes gradually and coming up with my own plan. And when you had the little wins at the start and you realize, oh my God, I have 200 saved, I have 1,000 saved in an emergency fund. Jesus, if I can save that in an emergency fund by just tweaking little things here and there, maybe I can pay off 15,000 in debt. Maybe that is possible. And confidence comes by building habits bit by bit of just tracking, watching what you're doing, budgeting religiously. When the money comes in, you give it a place to go, and you find out, oh, maybe I can cut back on that. And then you end up having more money to that place. So you could put it towards an extra debt. And that's all it is, by just educating yourself and talking about money, shining a light to it.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. That's so interesting. And on that topic of kind of changing, going from one mindset to the other, Aoife, have you gone through any personal experiences whereby you were in a bad place with money, and or maybe you had self-limiting beliefs around money, and any tips to kind of get these beliefs out of our system? Say, for example, we've done the work around awareness. Okay, I acknowledge I have some bad habits around money. I do this and I do that. Like, how do people go about making those changes or releasing those kind of limiting beliefs? Because a lot of them are deeply rooted inside of us.
The first step is the desire. It's in Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. There's lots of different versions of that book. My personal favorite is Think and Grow Rich for Women. It's a bit more contemporary. But the first step is the desire. You need to want to do this. The desire to change needs to be inside. So I've allowed myself, because I take personal responsibility for my own actions, I allowed myself to be in debt. And actually, up until recently, I used to say I found myself in debt, which is almost like it happened to somebody else. You know, nobody wakes up in the morning 10 stone heavier. You just don't. These things sneak up on you. And because I had my head in the sand, so on two separate occasions, I allowed myself to be quite substantially in debt. And it was as the result of a breakdown of a relationship, because my belief was that men were better at managing money. That was a belief that I held. And that came from just the way my parents brought me up, because my father went out to work and my mum was a stay-at-home parent. So I had this unconscious belief that men did the doing and men went out and earned the money and women stayed at home. That was just how I was brought up. And my mom actually was very entrepreneurial, very, very resourceful, but because she worked for the civil service, when she got married, she had to give up her job. So that was a big frustration for her. And so the desire to change came from when I allowed myself to be very substantially in debt. I had 2 mortgages, no job, and I thought, okay, it's sink or swim. I can really drown, but then I'm no use to anybody. And I had a son I still have a son. My son was quite young at the time. I thought, okay, well, I can't. This is my responsibility to step up. I can't put my head under the pillow. I just can't. So it's sink or swim. And that was a real, okay, that was a huge turning point. So I had that desire to change, and I found MABs were fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So I got every possible bit of help out there that I could get. And then I began to work on my mindset. Like I said, I was in my late 30s before I figured out this whole mindset business. Money management is easy, more in, less out the end. But it's about, what are you telling yourself? What are you telling yourself is possible? What's the language that you're using with yourself? What are you looking at? Who are you surrounding yourself with? How do you treat money? Is it kicking around the bottom of your handbag or on the floor of your car? Or do you actually treat it with love and respect? Like, get a really nice purse, a nice jam jar, a nice bank account in a place that you like, that doesn't charge you fees, with a card that in a nice color. I have a nice fancy purple one. So it's how you treat money. Do you treat it with love and respect? Do you treat it as something that's to be celebrated and to be joyful with? Or are you quite disrespectful with it and ignoring it and not giving it any attention? So the desire, it is that once you have that burning desire, and sometimes getting to that point of sink or swim is a great place, because think, okay, well, I can't sink any further, so the only way I can go is up. But that desire to change needs to be within, and it's about focusing on your big why. If your big why doesn't make you cry, then it's not big enough. My big why was my son.
So like understanding why you want to earn more money, not just like put a number, but understanding the meaning kind of behind
what are you gonna do with that money? Who could you help? What could you do? Who could you give it to? How can you contribute? It's not about stuff. It's about, what will that mean? What will that element of freedom mean for you, for your family, for, I don't know, whoever is in your life? And you keep asking yourself, why, until you actually feel it physically, that your hair stands on end and you have that sort of, it's a peculiar feeling, but you'll know it. You go, okay, right now, that's what my big why is. It's got nothing to do with the money. It's got nothing to do with the next thing. It's got nothing to do with the shiny car. It's to do with all of the things that you can do for yourself and for other people.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think often when you dig into it. Because I think if I was to say to my friends, I want to earn X amount, I'd be like, I'd feel shameful, because I think there is a bit of shame attached to wanting to be wealthy or wanting to earn more money. But there was a group kind of survey done recently, and when people said their why, well, what would they do with this money that they want to earn? Actually, most of it was down to, well, I want to be able to provide opportunity for my kids, or I want to give back to my parents because they've given me so much, or I want to, mostly I think it comes down to helping yourself and then helping other people. But there definitely is this weird shame thing around money. I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that's right, Susan. There definitely is shame associated with, like Santa said, about talking about money, but whether you have it or whether you don't, I think there's shame at equal sides. You don't want to be boasting that you have money. At the same time, you're afraid to say if you're struggling. So it can be debilitating no matter which way you look at it. And we shouldn't really think about money like that. We should think it's something that can be for good. Make money a friend rather than a burden. But in whatever way that transpires. But I think you're right that the shame kind of lies in both directions, good and bad, and we need to try and lift that mentality from ourselves and be proud of what we earn, and not be afraid to say I'm not great, I'm not happy with how my money is going. You could be in that sink or swim situation that you've talked about, or you might not be. You might just be, I don't think this is enough. I'd like to be doing more. And it's not about looking at how can I save money all the time. It can also be that how can I get more money? Where could I earn more money? And maybe that is about being more prudent with charges on your bank account. But then there's other ways too. It is about being proud of what you do and asking for that pay rise. So there's definitely look at money as a positive, rather than some burden that's around our necks all the time.
Yeah, and all of that actually leads very nicely into my next question for you. So saving, right? I want to talk about saving because we're all told, saving is obviously a really good thing, but often I don't think it's discussed enough openly around, okay, well, our money sitting in one place, just sitting there. There's other things that we could be doing to grow our money. And so I don't know, like what would your advice be to people who have savings accounts? First of all, what's your view on saving? And second of all, what are the different ways that we can start to actually grow our money?
Yeah. Well, to start off, saving is that habit that we all need to really get used to, because we do need to save to plan for the future, and to get that control and that confidence going ahead in life, that we know where it does settle, that feeling of anxiety about if you know that there is some money available to you that you've saved, and it also helps in the cost as well, because if you're saving rather than lending money to pay for things, then you're saving a huge amount of money in the long term. What we would always advise in MoneyQ is that we would like people to save for that emergency fund. And I think, Santos, you mentioned that it was one of your first steps to getting your mindset to change about money. If you're able to save something, get that habit going first. It doesn't matter how small it is, get that habit going. But when you have saved a bit of money that you can then use as your little emergency fund, anything after that, you really need to make it work, so unfortunately we don't get anything from the banks. We get charges. If you do make any interest, there's a bit of charge on that too. So you're not going to make money by leaving it in the bank. Leave your emergency fund in the bank because you want to be able to get that quickly. So leave it there. But anything after that fund is excess. It's something that you don't need straight away. If you don't need it in the next 12 months, then you should try and make it work. And then you can start looking at investment options. So you could put it into a regular saving plan that will be invested and have some opportunity to grow. And that could be any amount. It could be Some people will like to gamble a little bit and take a bit of risk, but others will be more cautious. There's options out there for everybody. And depending on how long you want to save for, you can do different things with it. So there is one option that we've been talking about this week on Pensions Awareness Week, is the pension savings. So that's just another form of saving, but it's very long term. It's something you put away for the very far future when you retire. So that's going to be probably at least 60. So that's one element that you could use your savings from, and you get tax relief from the government for it, for anything you put into it. So it's also a money saving option as well. So I would say use your savings to start your emergency fund, and once you have your emergency fund, and we would kind of estimate about 3 months income if you can, and then after that try and invest it. And there's lots of financial advisors out there who will help you with that. Even you can talk to your bank as well. They can often advise too, and find the right option that suits you. So whether you want to take a risk or not, but something that will give you a little bit more than what you get in the bank, which is practically zero. So it just, and it's there then in the future. It's working for you. You're taking control of the money, and if you do a pension as well, then that means you're getting a fund ready for when you retire. So that's another little pocket of money that you don't have to worry about again when you're older and you're finished work. You've planned for that as well. So, and you get that tax relief from the government, which is great. So there's another little saving in your jar.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And I know in a previous employer that I worked for, I remember they introduced pensions, and we all had our one-to-one meeting, and whatever, we all signed up for a different pension, but it came out that most of the women went into the low risk, and most of the men went into the high risk. So it was just interesting, the women were more risk averse in these situations.
That's quite common, Susan. We do find that a lot, that women will be more conservative with money than men, and that is exactly the same mindset that comes back to working and asking for the pay rise. There is a little bit more caution for females than there is for males when it comes to money in general. So
but confidence.
It is a bit of confidence. Yeah, there's just a more cautious mindset with a lack of confidence. I mean, I think even for myself and my own husband, like we both have pensions as well, and that we had through work, and like he's investing his, and it's like grown quite substantially, because he took a risk and he went into stocks and shares, whereas I was like, oh, I'll just put it into this nice medium safe fund here, and it's grown a bit, but it wasn't doing as well. And that, again, it's just that difference in mindset that people have. And I'm starting to change that now. I'm going, okay, I can try. The thing with pension saving in particular is that it's such a long period of time between when you start it and when you're going to use the money. You won't be able to touch it until you retire. And for most people, that's going to be age 60 at least, when they can use the pension fund. So it's a huge long amount of time that will allow you to take a little bit more risk. So you can be a bit more confident that in the earlier years, you can put it into something more high risk, because it has time to grow and to weather the storms that will inevitably happen. Things will go up and down. That's the nature of money and finance and markets, but they will smooth out over time. And when you have time, you have the opportunity to let that happen. And then when you get closer to retirement age, you can start putting into something less risky, and then it'll slow down that volatility. But it is something I think people misunderstand. They view pensions in the same way they might view an investment that's for 3 or 4 years, in length. You might have a totally different approach to how you invest those two amounts, because the pension could be for 30 years before you can invest it, for 30 years before you can use it, or something you might be investing that you think you're going to use in 5 or 6 years time, you'll have a different approach to, because you don't have the same amount of time to take the risks.
Okay, yeah, that makes complete sense. And Santis, I have a question for you. I have been speaking to a lot of people this year, and during the pandemic, I feel like there's a lot of people getting a bit more creative about wanting to have additional revenue streams. in their life. So whether that's like a side hustle or whatever, just having kind of multiple revenue streams. Do you have any advice for someone who may be in a job and has their monthly salary coming in, but maybe they want to look at opening up an additional revenue stream for themselves? Any tips on that at all?
Yes, I have a lot. If you like, side hustles are a great way, as well as a lot of people develop side hustles into their main hustle. So it could be an interest that you have. You have websites and apps like, the Fiverr, the freelancers, where they do. This is people that maybe you're a graphic designer and you want to make a bit of money on the side, that you can offer your service for a fee of your choice. And that could be a business that it started off as something that you did, for a few clients, but then you're getting so many offers that your side hustle then becomes your main hustle. Then you have other people, maybe you're into fashion and you really like buying, and you're trying to cut back on your budget. So this could be something that maybe you like buying vintage clothes. You could go to the charity shop, really take an interest in it and resell it on eBay or Depop. And there's people that have, six-figure income businesses that they make from simply doing something out of, maybe it's just an interest that they have, and it's really how to economize whatever interest that you have to make extra income. um I write for a magazine, but I do public speaking, I do coaching. I make passive income with, tools that I sell. I sell planners. I have like a virtual shop. There's always ways of making income. And I'm trying to tell people, even if you think that maybe you like dogs and you can't have dogs in your apartment or wherever, you can do dog sitting. There's people that pay a lot of money to go traveling and they want somewhere to have their dogs. That could be an interest that you like. You like kids. You can do babysitting services. There's so much money that you can make on the side, and it might actually end up being something that you find, I actually like doing that. I might actually pack in my job, and because I'm making so much money, I can't balance the two. But here I am now, with a dilemma of doing a job that I actually really love, and it's actually my passion, and you want to put your energy into your passion. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think as time goes on, I think portfolio careers are becoming more and more popular.
Yeah.
So this whole idea where you're not just one thing, or you're not just a specialist in one area, but you do multiple things. And I think that's starting to be more and more attractive to more people because of this flexibility and working from home. And
Yeah.
we all have so many skills, and it's like you said, it's like having that awareness, like, what am I passionate about? What are my skills? How can I share this with other people?
And it's an abundant mindset as well.
Yeah.
You
And
can think.
Aoife, can I ask you, I want to, because we've only 10 minutes left, I don't know where that time's gone. But for those people in life who seem to attract a lot of financial abundance, or maybe people who've done very well or are very successful, are there any kind of common trends with these people? Like, what are they doing that the average Joe is missing? Is there any kind of things that you see people do that tend to end up then turning into financial success, abundance?
It's not what they're doing, it's what they're thinking.
Okay.
And that is key. Once you change your thinking, changing the doing is really, really easy. So it's be very mindful of the language that you use with yourself. Read, listen, surround yourself with people who support you and lift you up. And when I say read, I don't mean read the news. I mean read things like Think and Grow Rich. For women, I highly recommend Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. by Lois Frankel. It's a fantastic, fantastic book. And again, it's about the unconscious mistakes that women make. So women tend to ask, men assume. So it's about feeding your mind. But I have lots of different types of clients. I have wealthy clients on paper who really struggle, who have debts coming out their ears. Then I have other clients on lower incomes in relative terms, and they're building wealth. So it's not about the money, and that's not meant to sound flippant or trite. It's don't ask people what they're doing, ask them what they're thinking.
Okay, that's very good. And how do you view wealth then? Like,
wealth is freedom. For me, wealth is, it's not necessarily money in the bank, but for me, wealth is freedom. It's the freedom to do what I choose, to go where I choose, to be with the people that I choose, to live in the house, the location that I choose, maybe to have multiple houses, but it is the freedom to choose.
I saw an interesting meme the other day that was like, I used to be jealous of, or I used to think success was like how much money the person at the bank, but now I'm envious of how much free time that person has, you know. So I think, yeah, it just kind of gave me a bit of perspective on the meaning behind wealth. And obviously it's individual to each person as a success.
But it's getting clear about what does it look like for you. So what does wealthy mean for you? Does it mean money? Is it actual cash? Is it numbers on a bank statement? Is it multiple streams of passive income? I'm a big fan of the multiple streams of income. And if you are thinking about a hustle sometimes and you don't really know what to do, sometimes something like multi-level marketing or network marketing is a good way, because it's a kind of like a done for you option. And I'm not going to recommend any of them because I don't, but it's another thing to look at, because there's the model. All you have to do is follow the instructions. So it's, instead of having to come up with your own thing, it's just try make life harder. So I'm a big fan of make life easier. I'm essentially I am a workaholic, but I like to do things in the simplest, fastest, most efficient way possible. So underneath this workaholic exterior, there's probably a lazy person struggling to get out. So if there's an easy way to do it, I will find it.
I love that. And on that, like, I think some people, like myself included, sometimes, you know, they feel like earning money is this really difficult, stressful thing. Whereas, like, I read something the other day around having the mindset that, you know, it's easy, you know, what's the easiest way to make money, or what's the easiest way to find the solution, is, I'm sure, comes under that abundance.
And just keep asking yourself, so, you know, Santos is very solution focused. Just keep asking yourself questions. I like to ask myself is, I wonder how, whatever, I wonder, you know, how can I earn more money today? So the question requires an answer more than yes or no. It's not, can I earn money today? Yes, no. It's like, I wonder. So when you get like, I wonder, get curious. Ask yourself very powerful questions, because your brain will do its best to answer them.
Yeah, that's such a good point. With 5 minutes to go, if anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat box before we finish up. So lastly then, I just want to ask the three of you, if there's one final piece of, maybe it's a thought, maybe it's a piece of advice, maybe it's something you'd say to your younger self. Santos, I'll start with you. Is there anything you'd like to finish up on?
I would say trust your gut, your intuition, whatever you want to call it. There's an instinct there that is telling you exactly what you need to do. Don't ignore it. Don't just have it in your head. Be actionable with it. I promise you, it's been a game changer for me.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Writing it down, is that a good one?
I write it down, but I shoot as well. I think it, I know it, I feel it, and I don't second guess my gut.
Love that. Olive, you're next on my screen. What would you like to finish up?
I'll go with a practical tip, and as you said, if I could tell this to my younger self, I would have done. I would say start a savings habit. That just can set the the ground for long-term financial well-being. So I'd say start. It doesn't matter how small it is. If it's €1 a week, just start putting something away that you can forget about at whatever level you can afford, and it'll build from there.
Brilliant, thank you. And last but not least, Aoife.
They invest, not spend. So again, be mindful of your language, leverage your spending, and hire a coach. Absolutely, hire a coach. Hire multiple coaches, but always be accountable to somebody else.
Brilliant, I love that. And I see a few questions, so I'm just going to pick one from Elizabeth. Elizabeth, thank you. Where is a good place to start when it comes to investing? Where can you dip your toe in the water to get familiar with it before really getting into it?
I suppose I'll answer that one. Yeah, there's lots of different options out there. And I would say the first thing you should do is talk to a financial advisor, because somebody who's independent can get you the best option that's out there in the market, and it should be something that suits you. So there are lots of different options out there. Generally, it'll be something with maybe an insurance provider. That's usually a good safe place to start. But I think talk to a financial advisor. You can Google financial advice and you'll find someone in your locality or something that suits you, that looks like someone who'll match what you're looking for, and then they should be able to find the right option for you, because everybody's different, so people will need different things. So I think that's the best place to start.
Okay, brilliant. That's really good advice. And there's another question. Do you have any recommendations of books to read about money mindset? Aoife, I know you mentioned a few already.
Yes, lots. Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office, Lois Frankel. Think and Grow Rich for Women by Sharon Lecter. Millionaire Mindset, Harv Eker, and The Wealth Chef by Anne Wilson would probably be my top 4.
Brilliant, thank you. Does anyone else have any recommendations?
I'm actually loving How to Be a Badass with Money right now. Just because I like her language.
Who wrote that?
Jess Sincero.
Oh, I read the book. She's great. I love her.
Yeah, she just speaks like the way I'd listen. So yeah.
There's also I've actually started to listen to certain podcasts as well. It's kind of a like easier bite-sized things. I know there's one called Money Mindset by Jody Shield, I think is a good one. So yeah, but even if you just type it into Spotify, a few will come up. But listen, everyone, with that, it's 1 o'clock. So firstly, I want to thank all of our speakers. You've all been brilliant. Thank you for taking the time to share your expertise. We're going to send out an email with all their details. So anyone who wants to connect or learn more or get yourself a coach or a financial advisor, you now have 3 experts that you can reach out to. And thank you to everyone who came to the event. And thank you to Iconic Offices for putting all this together.